Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something pretty huge, really woven into our lives. Technology and social media.
It really is everywhere, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you, our listener, you've told us you want to get a better handle on it, both the amazing potential, but also the tricky downsides.
Right.
So we've looked at some really interesting material, discussions from a tech talk, and some related terms they used.
Yeah, the sources give us a good lens on this digital age.
Our goal here is really to cut through the noise, give you a clear, engaging picture of how all this is shaping our world, and importantly, how we can maybe navigate it a bit better.
Exactly. We'll look at the big positives, the real challenges, and crucially, some practical ways to use these tools more, well, thoughtfully.
Okay, sounds good. So let's dive right in with the upside then. What are some of the biggest positive shifts you see from tech and social media?
Well, I think the most fundamental one is just how connected we are now. I mean, social media platforms. They've basically created this global network, haven't they?
Oh, definitely. Instant communication across continents. It's almost hard to remember what it was like before.
Right. And it really speeds up how ideas spread, fosters, maybe more understanding between cultures.
Yeah, and you see that power in social movements. The hashtag #MeToo movement, for instance.
That's a powerful example.
It just exploded on platforms like Twitter, gave a voice to so many people who felt alone before.
The scale was incredible. Something like, 19 million tweets in the first year?
Yeah, over 19 million. And that's not just a number, right? It's this huge amplification of stories, creating a real sense of shared experience.
It really is.
Yeah.
And beyond connecting people, think about access to knowledge. That's another massive positive.
You mean like online learning?
Exactly. Platforms like Coursera, I think they hit over 100 million learners back in 2022.
Wow.
And Khan Academy, too. They've opened up education to this huge global audience, people learning from top universities right from their living rooms. It's quite revolutionary.
It really has democratized education, hasn't it? And it's not just formal courses, is it? Look at healthcare.
Telemedicine.
Yeah, especially during the pandemic. It became absolutely essential.
It really did. Remote consultations were suddenly not just convenient, but lifelines for many.
The WHO reported, a 50% jump in some areas?
Yeah, something like that. And it suggests this isn't just a temporary thing. It could be a fundamental shift in delivering healthcare, reaching more people.
Which is incredible. And then there's the economic side, too.
Oh, definitely. E-commerce platforms, think Etsy, Shopify, they've really empowered small businesses, entrepreneurs.
Lowered the barrier to entry, basically.
Precisely, allowing them to reach global markets. I saw a figure. Global e-commerce sales were nearly $5 trillion in 2021.
$5 trillion, wow.
And small businesses are a huge chunk of that. It's opened up participation in the global economy for so many.
And zooming out even further, technology is just this massive engine for innovation, isn't it? Potential solutions for huge global challenges.
Absolutely. Things like AI helping predict diseases by crunching vast amounts of data.
Or advancements in renewable energy, solar, wind.
Right. The IEA noted, I think, a 45% jump in renewable capacity between 2015 and 2020. Technology is right at the core of that progress.
So yeah, lots of really exciting, positive developments.
Definitely. But we do have to look at the other side of the coin. The challenges are pretty significant, too.
Right. The double-edged sword aspect. Why do we start with the downsides? I guess mental well-being comes up a lot.
It does. That feeling of being constantly on, plugged in, it can take a real toll.
And the pressure maybe to present this perfect life online, that social comparison thing.
Exactly. Scrolling through endless curated feeds, it can really chip away at your self-esteem. There's that UK study, Royal Society for Public Health.
Oh yeah, I remember reading about that. Linking social media use to a big jump in anxiety and depression.
A 70% rise over 25 years, particularly among young people. It's quite concerning.
It really is. And part of it is how these platforms are designed, isn't it? To keep you hooked.
Totally. The notifications, the likes, the comments, they trigger little dopamine hits in your brain.
Makes you want more.
Yeah, and it can create these, addictive patterns, behavior cycles that are hard to break.
I think we've all felt that pull, right? The endless scroll.
Well, for sure. But interestingly, studies have shown that even cutting back helps. One in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology found limiting use to just 30 minutes a day could significantly reduce loneliness and depression.
Only 30 minutes. That's actually quite manageable, potentially.
It suggests small changes can make a difference.
But for younger users, the risks can be even more acute. Cyberbullying, for instance.
That's a huge issue. The American Academy of Pediatrics Their figure was around 34% of students experiencing it.
A third. That's staggering. And sometimes the consequences are just devastating. That awful story from Malaysia.
The teenager who died after an Instagram poll. Yeah, a truly heartbreaking reminder of how online actions have real-world impact.
Just tragic. And moving beyond individual harm, there's the whole issue of privacy.
Oh, absolutely. We share so much data online, often without fully realizing it.
And the risk of misuse is huge. The Cambridge Analytica scandal was a real wake-up call, wasn't it?
Definitely. Millions of Facebook users' data harvested without proper consent. It showed just how vulnerable our information can be.
Makes you think twice about clicking agree, doesn't it?
It certainly should. And then there's the whole problem of misinformation.
Oh boy, yeah. How quickly false stuff can spread on social media, it's terrifying.
It really is. That Oxford University research during the pandemic, finding a significant chunk of UK adults believe COVID myths, partly because of social media.
And once that stuff gets out there, it's so hard to correct, isn't it? It just takes on a life of its own.
Exactly. It spreads like wildfire and can be really difficult to contain or debunk effectively.
Okay, so we have these incredible benefits, connectivity, knowledge, innovation.
Yeah.
But also these really serious challenges. Mental health, addiction, privacy, misinformation.
It's a complex picture for sure.
So the big question then is, how do we manage this? How do we navigate this digital world more wisely?
That is the crucial question. What are the strategies, both for us as individuals and, for society as a whole?
Well, I suppose the starting point has to be just understanding it better. Digital literacy.
Absolutely fundamental. Equipping people with the skills to navigate online safely and responsibly.
Like understanding privacy settings. I was shocked by that Pew Research stat. Only about 37% of users actually adjust them.
Isn't that surprising? It seems so basic, but clearly it's not common practice.
And it's not just settings, it's also about spotting credible information, right? Knowing which sources to trust.
Crucial. Education both in schools and for adults is key there. Developing critical thinking skills.
You mean actively questioning what we see online?
Yes. Don't just accept it. Verify it. Check reliable sources. Establish news outlets like Reuters or the BBC before sharing something. In this environment where anyone can publish anything, discernment is vital.
That makes sense. And on a more personal level, what about boundaries?
It's super important. Setting tech-free times or zones, like the classic no devices in the bedroom rule.
Does it really help?
I think it can, yeah. Improve sleep, encourage more face-to-face interaction, just creating that separation.
Okay. And for families, especially with kids?
It's about parental monitoring, yes, but maybe more importantly, open communication. Talking about the risks, fostering responsibility online.
Not just banning things, but talking about why.
Exactly. Setting reasonable screen time limits, maybe, but coupling that with conversation and leading by example, of course.
Right. Can't tell the kids to get off their phones if you're glued to yours.
Precisely.
Okay, so that's individual and family strategies. What about the bigger players, the tech companies and policymakers? What's their role?
Well, tech companies definitely have a huge responsibility. Better content moderation is a big one.
Trying to limit the spread of harmful stuff and misinformation.
Yes. They are doing some of it. Twitter, for example, reported removing millions of accounts for things like hate speech. But there's general agreement that much more needs to be done.
And what about the algorithms? They sort of decide what we see.
That's another key point. More transparency is needed there. How do they prioritize information? How do they shape our feeds? Users should understand that better.
And policymakers, governments.
They have a critical role in setting the rules of the game. Regulations to protect user privacy, ensure fair competition.
Like GDPR in Europe.
Exactly. That's a major example, imposing hefty fines for data breaches. But we probably need more comprehensive, maybe international frameworks to really hold these global companies accountable.
Accountability is key. But this also touches on another issue, doesn't it? The digital divide.
Yes, that's a really important dimension. All these tools exist, but access is far from equal.
Right. The ITU data, only about half the world online.
Yeah.
And much lower in the least developed countries.
Around 19% in those countries, I think. It's a stark gap. We need to address that if the benefits are going to be shared more widely.
So how do we bridge that gap? It feels like a massive undertaking.
It is. It requires collaboration, governments, nonprofits, the private sector. We see initiatives like SpaceX's Starlink trying to offer global coverage via satellites.
Starlink has thousands of satellites up now, right?
Over 3,000 by last year, yeah. So that's one approach. But it also needs sustained investment in infrastructure and policies for affordable access.
And sometimes it's community efforts, too.
Yeah, definitely. That Detroit example is great, a community mesh network connecting homes that were underserved. Local solutions can be really powerful.
It shows what's possible. Now, thinking back to the pandemic again, it really highlighted both sides, didn't it?
Absolutely. Technology was a lifeline, no question. Remote work, online school, staying connected.
Zoom's user numbers went through the roof, from 10 million daily users to 300 million in 2020.
Incredible growth.
Yeah.
But as we said, it also threw those inequalities into sharp relief.
The digital divide became very real for education.
Massively. UNESCO estimated something like 463 million students worldwide lacked access to remote learning. That potentially widened existing educational gaps hugely.
A stark reminder of why access is so crucial. Looking ahead now, what about the future of work? We hear so much about automation and AI.
Yeah, that's set to be a major transformation. The World Economic Forum projects, I think it was 85 million jobs potentially displaced by automation by 2025.
Wow, 85 million. That sounds scary.
It does, but they also projected 97 million new roles emerging in areas like AI, data analysis, green tech.
Ah, okay. So displacement, but also creation of new types of jobs.
Exactly, which underscores the massive need for reskilling and upskilling. Continuous learning is going to be vital.
Like that Singapore initiative, retraining huge numbers of workers.
Yeah, aiming to retrain 100,000 workers by 2025. That's the kind of forward-thinking approach needed to navigate this shift.
Oh, lifelong learning becomes even more critical.
Yeah.
Okay, and what about the tech itself? How do you see that evolving?
Well, we'll likely see even deeper integration into daily life. The Internet of Things, billions more connected devices.
Gartner predicted 25 billion by 2030, didn't they?
Something like that, yeah. And AI will likely get more sophisticated, leading to even more personalized online experiences.
For better or worse.
Right. And then there's the whole area of virtual and augmented reality, the metaverse concept.
Billions being invested there. Could that fundamentally change how we interact?
It could. Socializing, working, learning online could look very different, but again, potential downsides.
Like what? Deepfakes.
That's a big concern. We saw that Zelensky deepfake video in 2022. The potential for malicious use is clear.
And maybe social isolation if people spend too much time in virtual worlds.
That's another worry. So we need responsible innovation, collaboration, maybe even new laws to manage these emerging risks.
That's a lot to grapple with. Ethical considerations around AI seem huge, too. Bias in algorithms, for instance.
Definitely. Facial recognition tech having much higher error rates for women and people with darker skin. That MIT study highlighted it.
Up to 35% higher error rates for dark-skinned women.
Yes, and that can have real-world consequences, like wrongful arrests if the tech is used in policing without checks. So things like ethics audits for AI are becoming really important.
Balancing personalization with privacy, avoiding bias, huge ethical tightropes to walk. And what about democracy? Social media's impact there seems complicated.
Very complicated. On one hand, it can be a powerful tool for mobilization, like during the Arab Spring back in 2011.
Right, enabling communication and organization.
But on the other hand, it can be weaponized for disinformation and manipulation. The 2016 U.S. election is often cited.
The reports about Russian bots posting tens of thousands of times on Facebook.
Mueller's report mentioned 80,000 posts reaching maybe 126 million users. So the scale of potential influence is vast.
Which points again to the need for regulation, like the EU's Digital Services Act.
That's one attempt, yeah. Aiming for more transparency and accountability. But media literacy is crucial too, helping people recognize manipulation and breaking out of our echo chambers.
Getting diverse information, essential for a healthy democracy.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, the good, the bad, the complex. As we wrap up, what are the key takeaways for you?
For me, it really crystallizes that idea of the double-edged sword. Technology and social media offer immense benefits, connectivity, knowledge, opportunity. But the risks are equally significant: mental health, privacy, truth itself.
It's not inherently good or bad, maybe.
Exactly. The power really lies in how we choose to engage with it as individuals and as a society. It demands mindfulness, critical thinking, and proactive management.
So for you, our listener, maybe a final thought to consider as you reflect on this deep dive. Take a look at the digital boundaries you currently have. Are they working for you? Or are there maybe areas where creating a bit more mindful separation could boost your focus, your well-being, or even just help you find a more diverse range of information?
It's a good question to ask.
What's maybe one small step you could take starting today to be a more informed, more discerning user of these powerful tools, making sure you're harnessing their power for good in your own life?